The Hollow Child. The dense Bavarian forest stretched endlessly, a labyrinth of dark trunks, twisted branches, and tangled undergrowth, where sunlight struggled to pierce the canopy. Every rustle of leaves seemed amplified. Every snap of a twig echoed, as though the woods themselves were listening. Young Anna Weber wandered along a narrow path, calling for her brother, Lukas, who had vanished 3 days ago while playing near the edge of the forest. Her voice trembled, swallowed quickly by the oppressive quiet. Villagers had long whispered that the forest had its own will, a predatory intelligence that claimed children who strayed too far, replacing them with shadows or copies that were just wrong. Anna tried to steady her breathing, each step a fragile thread connecting her to hope and fear alike. Hours passed as she navigated the twisted roots and moss-covered stones, her mind haunted by memories of Lukas, the mischievous grin, the way he ran ahead without fear, his laughter echoing through the village streets. And now nothing. The forest seemed to absorb every sound, every echo of her footsteps, as if testing her resolve. The deeper she went, the heavier the air became, damp and thick with the scent of earth and decay. Birds had gone silent, and the wind carried a faint, uncanny whisper, like voices speaking in a language she almost understood. Every shadow seemed to shift independently, forming shapes that hinted at movement, at life, but not human life. At last, she stumbled into a narrow clearing, the ground soft with fallen leaves. Beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient oak stood a figure hunched over, small and familiar. Lukas, or someone who looked exactly like him, rose slowly, his movements stiff, unnatural, as if rehearsed. Anna froze. His eyes, they were dark, hollow, void of the spark that had once made her brother so unmistakably alive. Panic welled up inside her, but she forced herself forward, every step measured, every breath sharp in the cold forest air. The wind whispered again, carrying faint, unintelligible voices, weaving around her like a cage. The figure did not run. It merely watched, its head tilting in a curious, almost mocking manner, as though aware of her thoughts before she spoke them aloud. "Lukas," she called softly, hoping to coax the familiar warmth, the playful tone that always answered her. The figure's lips moved, but the sound that emerged was wrong, flat, monotone, void of inflection, almost mechanical. Its mannerisms mimicked his perfectly, yet the essence, the living spark, was absent. Anna's heart pounded. She reached out instinctively, fingers brushing against the figure's skin, and recoiled at the coldness, the stiffness. The air around them seemed to thicken, and the shadows under the oak deepened, twisting and writhing as if alive. She remembered the tales her grandmother had told her, the forest spirits that could steal a child's soul and leave a hollow copy behind, one that learned and observed but never truly lived. Her stomach churned with a nauseating dread. Lukas, or whatever this was, stared back at her with those empty eyes, and she felt a faint, dark intelligence within, cold and calculating. A rustle in the undergrowth to her right made her spin around. Two small eyes reflected faintly from behind a bush, watching, waiting. Anna's pulse raced, but she forced herself to stay, knowing that fleeing might only drive whatever haunted the forest to claim more. The whispers grew louder, layering over one another, as if hundreds of voices pressed in, murmuring promises, threats, names she did not know. The forest itself seemed to lean closer, alive with unseen presences, bending reality around her, thickening the fog of uncertainty. Anna realized, with a chill that cut through her resolve, that the figure in front of her was tethered to the forest. It was both her brother and not him, a mirror stripped of warmth, a shadow infused with something else entirely. She could see the faint outlines of other shapes lurking among the trees, glimpses of tiny forms that resembled children, their movements jerky and inhuman. Panic and determination warred within her. She had to uncover the truth, to find the real Lukas before it was too late. But the forest's oppressive presence pressed upon her, reminding her that hope in this place was dangerous, fragile, and perhaps a trap designed to lure the unwary deeper into its grasp. The clearing seemed to close in around her as the hollow figure took a tentative step forward, its expression unreadable. Anna's voice shook as she whispered, "Please, Lukas, come back to me." The figure's head tilted once more, unervingly precise, and a cold, almost imperceptible smile curved its lips. From the darkened forest came another whisper, not from the figure, but from the trees themselves. "She sees, but she cannot take him back." The realization struck her. The forest had chosen, and she was trapped in its web. Her brother's fate, and perhaps her own, was now bound to forces beyond understanding, lurking just beyond the light of the clearing, in the dense, suffocating shadows of the Bavarian woods. Anna's hands trembled as she stepped closer to the hollow figure, her heart clanging like a bell in her chest. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, yet every memory of her brother pulled her forward. Lukas, or what looked like him, mirrored her steps with a rigid precision, his hollow gaze fixed unwaveringly on her. The air grew colder, and the wind carried whispers that seemed to emanate not from the trees, but from the figure itself, a chorus of voices layered with grief, mischief, and something sinister Anna could not name. She hesitated, realizing that every step forward felt predestined, as if the forest guided her movement, ensuring she would not retreat too quickly. The figure reached for her, but its motion was jerky, unnatural, and the moment their hands almost touched, Anna felt a shock of icy emptiness seep into her bones. The skin, though identical in appearance, lacked warmth, lacked life. It was a perfect imitation, a hollow shell. Her stomach twisted with a combination of grief and fear. She remembered her grandmother's stories in more detail now. How a forest could swap the living with the hollow, leaving only the semblance of a child, a being without a soul, bound to the wood's obscure will. Shadows seemed to cling to the hollow Lukas, coiling around him like smoke, whispering secrets she could almost comprehend. "Who are you?" Anna's voice broke, the words trembling. The figure tilted its head, mirroring her gesture, but the answer came not as words but as a faint, chilling laugh, too soft to be human. The forest seemed to press in closer, twisting sounds and movement into a disorienting pattern. Anna could now make out other figures lurking at the edge of the clearing, small silhouettes that mimicked children she had seen in the village. Their movements were jerky, their faces blank, watching, waiting. Her fear intensified, but so did her resolve. She could not leave her brother to this fate. Anna recalled the villagers' warnings. The forest does not forgive curiosity. It binds and replaces. She felt the truth of it now. Every shadow, a silent sentinel, every whisper a warning. She noticed subtle differences in Lukas, the way he tilted his head, the rhythm of his breathing, the emptiness in his gaze. Her heart sank further. The brother she remembered had vanished, replaced by this hollow double. Yet, she could not abandon him. Her hand reached tentatively toward the hollow figure again, seeking the familiar warmth. The brother she knew was trapped somewhere beneath that eerie facade. As she touched his arm, a sudden gust swept through the clearing, twisting the branches, and the hollow Lukas stiffened violently. The forest seemed to respond to her doubt and hesitation. Whispers escalated into a murmuring chorus, incomprehensible yet laden with menace. A faint, greenish luminescence emanated from the underbrush, revealing glimpses of more hollow figures. Children who had disappeared years before, their eyes dark and unseeing. Anna staggered back, feeling the oppressive weight of the forest closing around her. Yet, even in her fear, she could not tear her gaze away. Something unseen pressed against her mind, a subtle but undeniable force nudging her deeper into the heart of the woods. The hollow Lukas stepped closer, and Anna could sense a malevolent awareness behind the mimicry of his actions. The forest whispers were now distinct, clear, almost sentient. She chooses, she binds, she cannot save him. Her chest tightened, and she realized that the forest had already begun its work, intertwining her will with the fate of the hollow. Every instinct urged her to flee, yet the fear of losing Lukas entirely rooted her in place. The wind moaned through the trees, carrying with it a distant, unnatural laughter, as though hundreds of hollow children watched, waiting for her next move. Anna understood, with a gnawing terror, that her path forward was not just perilous, it was preordained, and the forest would not release her from its grasp until it had claimed more than just her brother. The forest seemed to close in around Anna, the trees leaning in unnaturally, their branches twisting like grasping fingers. Each step she took toward the hollow figure of Lukas brought a new wave of dread, the air thick with a subtle hum of whispers that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. The clearing, which moments ago had seemed small, now expanded into a labyrinthine space, shadows stretching and contracting, revealing glimpses of other figures lurking at the edge of her vision. Anna's mind raced. She could sense their presence before she even saw them. Children who had disappeared years ago, their faces pale, hollow-eyed, mirroring the same unsettling emptiness as the Lukas before her. The hollow Lukas stepped forward, hands raised as if to guide her somewhere, yet his movements were stiff, unnatural, jerking with each motion as though pulled by invisible strings. Anna's heart ached. She knew the real Lukas was trapped somewhere beneath this imitation. But where? And how could she reach him? The whispers intensified, voices overlapping, some sounding like laughter, others like cries, all blending into a chaotic chorus that vibrated in her bones. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet something, a strange, magnetic pull, kept her rooted in place, drawing her deeper into the heart of the forest. A sudden rustle behind her made Anna spin. From the shadows emerged another child, or rather a hollow copy, its movements jerky, face eerily blank, but bearing a faint resemblance to a neighbor's son who had vanished months prior. It stopped at a distance, tilting its head as if observing her, while other hollow figures emerged silently, surrounding the clearing in a slow, deliberate circle. Anna could feel the forest will pressing against her, a silent, inexorable force shaping the scene, bending reality. The ground beneath her seemed to pulse, softening as if it were breathing, the very soil alive with ancient, hidden intent. Desperation clawed at Anna. She called out for Lukas again, her voice trembling, but the hollow figure's response was the same flat, imitated tone, empty of warmth or recognition. Then, the whispers coalesced into a single, chilling message that seemed to reverberate directly inside her mind. You cannot take him back. He is ours now. The wind howled, and shadows flitted along the branches, forming fleeting shapes of children she once knew, their blank eyes watching, silently judging, waiting. The forest was no longer a passive backdrop. It was an active predator, testing her resolve, feeding off her fear, entwining her will with its own. Anna's vision blurred with tears, yet she forced herself to look at the hollow Lukas more closely. Subtle tells betrayed him, the unnatural stiffness of his joints, the way his head moved with a slight delay, the absence of any warmth in his gaze. Her stomach churned with guilt and horror. She realized that even if she tried to drag him from the forest, it would resist, bending paths and shadows to trap her. The whispering chorus seemed to pulse in sync with her heartbeat, a living entity monitoring her thoughts, anticipating her moves. Every step forward brought the hollow Lukas closer, yet every motion felt orchestrated by something far beyond human comprehension. Then, from the deeper shadows, another figure emerged, older and taller, perhaps a child long replaced. Its presence exuded a quiet menace, and Anna felt an immediate, visceral understanding. The forest had agents, beings that enforced its will, ensuring none escaped. The hollow Lukas paused, almost reverently, and stepped back as the taller figure advanced, its blank eyes boring into hers. The whispers shifted, becoming a low, sinister chant, weaving fear and fascination, drawing Anna's mind into a haze of uncertainty. She realized that she was no longer merely seeking her brother. She had become part of the forest's intricate web, a participant in its predatory design. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet she remained, heart hammering, trapped by a mixture of hope and terror. The forest had begun to teach her its language of shadows, teaching her through fear, pressing her toward choices she could not yet understand. The hollow figures shifted in unison, the ground beneath them seeming to thrum, and Anna's pulse quickened as she realized the stakes. One wrong move, one hesitation, and she too might be replaced, leaving behind a hollow imitation, a shadow tethered to the forest's relentless will. The whispers swelled into a chorus of voices, now undeniably sentient, forming words she understood with growing clarity. Stay joined, become one. Anna swallowed hard, stepping forward despite the paralyzing terror. The hollow Lukas reached for her once more, and the taller figure loomed behind him, casting an unnatural shadow that seemed to swallow the clearing. She understood then, with a piercing dread, that the forest's grip was not merely physical but spiritual. Every action, every thought was being watched, manipulated, bending her closer to the fate of those hollowed before her. And yet, somewhere deep inside, she clung to the fragile hope that the real Lukas was still alive, waiting beneath the imitation. The forest had fully awakened around Anna. The trees seemed alive, their gnarled limbs twisting unnaturally as if to form a labyrinth specifically for her. Shadows moved independently, stretching and curling, some shaping themselves into grotesque parodies of children she had known, others into forms that defied description, looming impossibly tall. The whispering chorus surged, louder and more urgent, now indistinguishable from the wind itself. Each voice seemed to tug at her mind, pressing her to submit, to step fully into the forest domain. Her feet felt leaden, the soil sticky beneath her shoes, slowing her movements, as if the ground itself sought to claim her. Before her stood the hollow Lukas, identical in appearance yet utterly alien. His blank eyes reflected not love or recognition, but a void filled with the forest's intelligence. Anna's throat tightened. She knew she had only moments to act before the imitation entirely replaced the brother she loved. Then, from the deeper shadows, more figures emerged. Older hollowed children, perhaps years lost to the forest, their movements eerily coordinated. They circled, silent except for the rustling of leaves and the faint, inhuman sighs, a predator preparing to close its trap. Anna's mind raced, and she felt the oppressive weight of the forest pressing against her very soul, challenging her resolve. Desperate, she called Lukas's name again, pouring every ounce of love and memory into her voice. The hollow figure paused for a fraction of a heartbeat, tilting its head, and for a fleeting instant, something almost human flickered in his eyes. Hope surged, but it was swiftly crushed by the taller figure stepping forward from the shadows, a sentinel of the forest's will. Its blank face was composed of pale, shifting patterns, like bark and mist fused unnaturally, and its presence exuded authority over the hollowed children. The whispers grew coherent, chanting, "Leave succumb, join forever," the rhythm of their words resonating inside Anna's chest. Anna took a deep breath, forcing herself to steady the tremor in her hands. She realized the hollow Lukas responded to her, well, only as long as she maintained belief, as long as she clung to the memory of the brother she knew. The taller figure advanced, and the hollow children moved closer, creating a tightening circle that left no room for escape. The forest itself seemed to sway in rhythm with their movements, a breathing entity of living darkness. The wind howled violently, and the shadows stretched into nightmarish forms, some with grotesque extensions of limbs, others with multiple faces silently screaming. Yet amid the chaos, Anna felt a singular clarity. She had to break the spell, to reach the true essence of Lukas before the hollow could consume him entirely. With trembling hands, she reached for the imitation, focusing not on its hollowed facade, but on the memory of the real boy, his laughter, his warmth, the way he used to run ahead of her down the village paths. She whispered to him, soft and urgent, "Lukas, come back. Fight with me. Remember who you are." For the briefest of moments, the hollow figure staggered, as if struggling against the forest's control, and a faint spark of life shimmered in his gaze. The taller sentinel hissed, the forest groaning and twisting around them, and the hollowed children recoiled slightly, faltering as though the bond they shared with their captor was weakening. Anna pressed forward, refusing to yield to fear. Each step brought her closer to the flicker of her brother's essence, and with each word she spoke, she felt the oppressive weight of the forest shift, resistance giving way to vulnerability. But the forest would not surrender easily. Roots erupted from the earth, twisting into grasping hands, and shadows reached out to pull her into the soil. The wind became a violent scream, carrying with it the voices of the countless hollowed souls, warning, taunting, urging surrender. Yet Anna held her ground, every ounce of love and memory forming a shield against the forest's will. She grasped her brother's hands, warm for a fleeting instant, and the hollow figure shuddered violently, a battle raging inside it between imitation and the real Lukas still trapped within. The clearing seemed to contract and expand simultaneously, time stretching, the forest's power manifesting as a living, oppressive force. Anna's voice rose, unwavering. "Remember, Lukas. Remember who you are." And in that moment, the hollow's eyes flickered fully into recognition, the void within giving way to a spark of the boy she had lost. The taller figure hissed, a sound like cracking wood and shattering stone, and the shadows recoiled. The forest groaned, resisting, but Anna's unwavering focus held. She realized that the fight was far from over. The forest's grip was still strong, its power ancient and unyielding. Yet a crack had appeared, and with it, the fragile hope of reclaiming her brother. Anna tightened her grip on Lukas's hands, refusing to let go, though the forest's grip fought her at every instant. The clearing seemed to twist, the trees bending inward, branches clawing at her clothing, roots snaking across the ground to trap her feet. The whispers escalated into a cacophony of warnings, threats, and indecipherable chants. Yet through the chaos, Anna felt the warmth of Lukas's hand, faint but undeniably real. That fragile connection became her anchor, a lifeline amid the forest's suffocating hold. She pressed every memory of her brother into him, his laughter, the countless games they had played, the shared secrets and whispered confessions of childhood. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a spark of recognition ignited in his eyes, pushing back the hollow emptiness that had threatened to consume him entirely. The taller sentinel and the hollow children recoiled, the forest will visibly faltering as the bond between Anna and Lukas strengthened. Shadows that had been stretching and twisting in unnatural forms retreated slightly, and the wind's wailing softened into a low, ominous moan. Anna could feel the forest struggling, alive with frustration, but the memory and love she poured into Lukas were stronger than the imitation's grip. His eyes, once empty voids, now shimmered with recognition, flashes of the boy she knew breaking through the hollow shell. He stumbled forward, unsteady but present, the first real movement she had seen in days. With a deep, trembling breath, Anna pulled Lukas close, whispering reassurance, urging him to move, to flee the forest's heart. The ground beneath them pulsed and writhed, but each step they took together seemed to weaken the forest's hold further. The hollow children lurched backward, one by one, shadows dissipating into the dark undergrowth. The sentinel hissed, a sound like cracking timber, and receded into the deeper shadows, its authority challenged. Anna did not look back, focusing entirely on guiding her brother through the twisting maze of roots and darkness. She could feel the forest's presence diminishing, though she knew it had not truly released its grip. Its ancient will remained, lurking, patient, waiting for the next unwary soul. Hours later, the sun broke through the dense canopy, as Anna and Lukas stumbled into a familiar path near the village's edge. Lukas's small hand remained clasped in hers, and the boy she remembered returned in fragile, flickering moments, though some traces of hollow imitation lingered in the stiffness of his movements, in his wary glances at the forest's edge. Villagers, who had watched her disappear days before, gathered around in cautious relief, their expressions a mixture of fear and awe. Anna felt a shiver as she realized the forest had allowed them to escape, but had not forgiven. Its influence would remain, a silent, lurking threat waiting for the next child, the next soul to ensnare. That night, as Lukas slept, Anna peered toward the forest's edge. Shadows shifted unnaturally among the trunks, darker than the night itself. She could hear faint whispers, almost imperceptible, threading through the wind, promises, threats, reminders. Though Lukas was safe for now, Anna understood with a chill certainty that the forest had not finished its work. The hollow could return, the shadows could grow bolder, and somewhere deep within the heart of the dark Bavarian woods, the ancient will waited, patient and relentless. She hugged her brother tightly, aware that love had saved him this time, but the forest's secret hunger would remain, waiting for the next moment of weakness, the next curiosity that led a child into its grasp. The villagers would speak of the Weber children in hushed tones for years to come, sharing the story of the forest that claimed, replaced, and tested the living. Yet Anna knew the truth, the shadowy secret hidden beneath the roots and moss. The forest was not done, and the hollow children, ever vigilant, would always linger just beyond sight, biding their time. The hollow child had returned, but the forest still watched.